welcome to today's Grow My Business webinar. Can everyone hear me? If you can, please drop a hey, hi in the chat below, please. So we'll be starting shortly, like I said. We're just waiting for more people to join. But yeah, I think we can kick off in some few minutes. But yeah, I hope everyone is doing great. I hope your day is going well too. We have some special people with us today. Can't wait for you guys to hear so much. Okay, I think we can start. My name is Sean Ogutonade, and I am the content creator and social media manager at Flutterwave. Welcome to our Grow My Business webinar. And if it's your first time, we're happy to have you here. And what is the Grow My Business webinar? This is a webinar we started about 2 years ago during the pandemic for business owners. So it's a way for business owners to find a way for them to grow their business in the midst of the pandemic, but we've evolved beyond that. And that's why the Grow My Business webinar is still here. We speak to industry experts from across the globe. Like today, we have someone from Senegal to share with you why data management is important for businesses. And we just speak to industry experts from around the world. So today with me, we have Djiba from EcoBank. She's a senior fintech advisor at EcoBank. And I also have my colleagues with me, Jolade and Baba. So they'll be also sharing what Flutterwave has for business owners at the moment. But before we go into introductions and also into the webinar session, I would like to set a few ground house rules. So this webinar is being recorded. So just in case you miss out or you would just like to watch this webinar again, we would share this during the course of the week or next week. And if you don't get the email, you can always check our YouTube channel, which is Flutterwave, and we have that uploaded there. All questions during each session will be put under the Q&A. If you check your Zoom, just right at the bottom, there's a Q&A section where you can drop all your questions. The chat box is for everyone to just interact with themselves. And I would advise that we put all questions in the Q&A section so that things don't get mixed up and we don't miss out on your fantastic questions. So here with me today is Djiba Diallo. She's a senior fintech advisor at EcoBank. She's a technology and innovation enthusiast with more than 15 years experience in ICT companies like Alstom and Microsoft. Not only is she a technology and innovation enthusiast, she also has a background in software develop. She's also a software developer too. So she also has a passion for science, aeronautics, and she also strongly believes in the potential of Africa. So today she's going to be sharing why data management is important for businesses. Hi, Djiba, are you there?
Thank you very much, Sean, for the introduction. And I'm very happy to be with all of you. As Sean mentioned, I'm not going to do further introduction. She said everything about myself, so we don't need to go back on it. Very happy to be with you, and I really hope that I'm very glad to get this invitation from Flutterwave, and I hope this session will be helpful for all the participants. My role currently at EcoBank is a senior fintech advisor. To simply say that my role is to set up the EcoBank strategy to facilitate partnerships with fintechs such as Flutterwave. And I believe that's where the relationship came from between EcoBank and Flutterwave. And I'm very glad that today we have the opportunity to exchange and collaborate together. So as the senior fintech advisor, my role, as I say, is to set up the strategy to facilitate partnerships with fintechs, knowing that EcoBank is one of the largest banks in Africa, with presence in 33 countries, more than 25 million customers, almost 14,000 employees, and a lot of branches and the connection point with our customers. I'm passionate about fintechs, but I'm all actually passionate about startup and the way innovation is ongoing in the continent. I strongly believe that in Africa, we have a very, very big potential. We have very talented youth people. I'm thrilled to see every day meeting with very innovative startups in Africa, and I'm very confident that we are on the right way. Even if the gap between us and the rest of the world is quite big, but I'm quite confident that we are recovering from that gap. So today, the topic is around data management and why it's important for businesses. I'm not a data specialist, but I have a quite long experience now in innovation and technology in Africa. And in the world, and it's clear that we are seeing a big trend around data, and it's important for you as businesses and even for us as EcoBank to make sure that we understand the implication of data management and how we should strategically think about it. So for today, the agenda will be go quickly through the story of where we came from and where we are today. Around data, why data is the new old, why it's important, and how we should get ready as a business. How technology has evolved during these past decades. So from the 1980s to the 20s, in most of companies and businesses, IT was used as a kind of infrastructure to manage the infrastructure, the internal software, the internal customer data management. So it was mainly an operational, let's say, department that was making sure that everything was working smoothly within the company that was using the system. From 20 to 2015, we now saw new devices with the first iPhone, for example, that was launched during that period. We saw a lot of interest on social media. That's when Facebook started also business. And that has completely changed the way we are interacting with technology as individuals. And it has also have an impact on the industries and on the businesses, because as employees, we were using these new services, but as companies, as businesses, we realized that these novelty was also an opportunity for us to change the way we were interacting with our customers. From 2015, we realized with the eclosion of many more devices and social media, we realized that data was actually exploding. A lot of things was happening. And then there's business intelligence and also artificial intelligence that started having success. Business intelligence, because all the data that businesses were having, they needed to use that to understand what was happening. And artificial intelligence, because even if you have the best model of artificial intelligence, if you don't have data to kind of fuel that model, you are not getting the results that you are expecting. And moving forward, you will hear more and more about data scientists. We've talked about that, and predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. So meaning that moving forward, we want to use data, artificial intelligence, deep machine learning to kind of predict how our customers are going to behave and how we should position ourselves as a business in front of them. So again, on a quick recap of what happened, as I said, in the 90s, the devices was mostly computer that was sitting in the offices in most of the businesses. From the 20 to 24 devices, such as actually the social media start appearing. We also saw the devices for the phone. Actually, the revolution of phone actually came even before. And moving forward, with the 5G coming, and the IoT motion getting more and more success. The data actually is coming from everywhere, not only us as individuals, not only our devices, but even everything that is around us is actually a source of data that many businesses can use and actually exploit. I'm sorry, some of the sentences that you'll see in the deck are in French, but so don't worry, I will just maybe mention that very quickly. So from that revolution or that evolution that I presented, we kind of try to understand how the evolution of data was happening since 2010. And the data that you are seeing here are in zeta octet. 1 zeta octet is equivalent to 1 billion tera octet. And because it's too big to represent it here, we just use zeta octet. So from 2010 to 2020, let's say today, 47. But what is most important is that the prediction for the coming years are showing that it's really going to go bigger and bigger. And as I said, this is mostly related to the fact that with the 5G and IoT, source of data is actually evolving, and we are seeing really an explosion of source of data that many companies can use moving forward. So data is the new oil, and there's a deck, actually this deck that I want to show to kind of illustrate what I'm seeing, what I was saying. If we go back not very far away from 25, you have on the left on the deck, you have the companies with the highest market capitalization in the world. So in 25, sorry, you had the likes of General Electric, ExxonMobil, Royal Dutch Shell, which are all in the energy industry. Microsoft was the only IT company at that time. You also had BP. You had banks such as Citigroup, for example. But the bigger actually in that list, most of them actually were in the oil and gas or energy industry. And as of today, on 2022, you have Apple, Microsoft, Google/Alphabet. You have only one company that is not in the IT space, and then Amazon, Tesla, etc. All of these companies are the highest market capitalization in the world, and all of them are in the IT world. So this shows, and when you see the growth, it's quite impressive. So this clearly shows that moving forward, actually as of today and moving forward, IT companies are really, really leading in terms of market share or even in terms of successful companies in the world. And this is mainly due to the fact that, yes, they are providing IT solutions, but they are also collecting a lot of data. If you see the likes of Alphabet, for example, or Amazon, or even Apple, one of their main businesses actually are around the data that they're collecting from the customers. This is not going to stop. If we see the number as of today, we have close to 8 billion people in the world. From those almost 8 billion people, we have more actually mobile connection than people. And half of it, actually even more than half of it are internet users. And half of them are active social media users. So the trend is going to continue, and we are not going to see any decrease. So all these companies that I mentioned earlier that are in the IT space are going to be even more and more successful. So once we set up let's say the background and the environment, it's important for us to understand what we mean by data and what is the data. So you have different set of data actually. You have the third party, which is what you have internally as a business. So it's all the offline and online interaction that you have with your customers. is the email, CRM data, very important, direct interaction with your customers, but it's also the data that you are collecting on your social media handles, also on interactions that you are having with customers. And then you have the second party data, which are data that you are exchanging with your partners, actually. So as long as it's a company that you agreed on exchanging data, many times it happens through APIs, for example. So that is second party data that you can tap in. Then you have the third party data. So mostly data that are available through companies that are actually selling it. Very common case, Google, Facebook, all the social media many times, or even third party that are not specifically very well known, but there are many that are collecting data, properly packaging that and sending to companies that are interested on specific topics. And then you have the open data, which are public or private data. So depending on how advanced your government is, it can be data from the government, it can be meteorological, it can be data on the traffic. It's many times also data that you can collect from NGOs or from even the World Bank, etc., etc. And then you also need to define your data, knowing that usually there are 5 V's that we use to determine or to characterize the data that you have in your company. So the first one is the volume. So do you have a lot of data that you can consider as enough for you to kind of start thinking of how you can exploit that? Is your data, how is the variety? Are you collecting data for various sources? In terms of velocity, how is it growing? In veracity, very important also, how true is your data? So for example, it can happen that you run marketing activities 5 years ago, and you have a database of customers that you were dealing with. Some of the customers have moved, for example, from the company that they were to another one. So this kind of informations, even if you are collecting them, not because it's true today, that is true maybe in 5 years ahead. Or even maybe you are collecting data from some of the customers that are not giving you the right information. And then the value, that's also an important one, but I think this one is mostly once you have sanitized the data that you have, and you have people helping you to understand how valuable your data is, that you can move to this point. You also need to understand that you have different type of data. So you have the structured ones, everything that mostly are in databases. So structured data, like for the databases that you have, it can be CRM, it can be your own cells. Most of the time, many are using Excel sheets or other kind of sheets. All the finance information that you have, all the contact that you have, everything that is structured, as soon as you see it, you know exactly what this data is corresponding to, and it's very well organized. And you also have the unstructured data. So all the images, all the chats, all the videos, all the sound, all the information that you are getting from social media, etc., etc. So you have it somewhere, but it's not very organized. Okay, so it's all over the place, but you don't really know how to do with that. And according to Gartner, actually, after a study that they did with many companies, they realized that actually unstructured data represent 80% of what enterprises have. So meaning that as a company, only 20% of your data is actually structured and the rest is unstructured. So once you have defined or you understand what data is and what it means, now the question is, what are you going to do with that? So the first thing is that for the structured data, it's already done. But for the unstructured data, the first thing is that you need to move it from unstructured to structured data. we also need to understand the kind of data that you have. So as I mentioned earlier, third party, second party, third party, or even open data. And once all of that has been clearly defined, you need to decide on how you want to exploit that data. And most of the time, you will need a data scientist. So it's a person that is specialized on data analysis but most importantly on how data exploitation for your company. And that's why we consider them as the new superhero, because with all the data that is being collected in the world, it's clear that they will play a key role moving forward. And it's very important to strategically understand how you want to use a data scientist to exploit the data that you have collected during these past years. The truth is very expensive and not easy to have data scientists. That's the reality of it. Even if in Africa things are a little bit changing, we are seeing more and more schools that are training people in that specialty. It still remains something very difficult to find. So many times what companies are doing is that if you don't have the possibility to hire data scientists internally, which I guess must be the case for many SMEs, you can outsource that. I'm not sure if we have outsourced data scientists company in Africa, but I know there are many out there in Europe and in the US. So maybe if you think that there's not enough in the country where you are, maybe it's something that we should all think about and see how we can have many more, because it's definitely, data is definitely the new oil, and it's growing exponentially. Why it's important, I think I said that earlier. Traditionally, the way we've been working with data, as I said, I think earlier in my presentation, is that we've been using business intelligence. So meaning that we had the data and we had people that were helping, doing some kind of standard reporting and describing, doing some analysis. But with that analysis, we had a good view of what happened, what is currently happening, or what happened in the past. And from there, we were taking decision from what happened. The difference with data scientists is that they predict actually what is going to happen. So from the data that they are getting, and from the model of either artificial intelligence or machine learning that they are having, they have the possibility to predict what is going to happen, and also kind of provide maybe solutions or preventive solutions, actually, to make sure that we are going to proactively face the issue that we may meet or face moving forward for our company. So that's the big difference that we are having with the new model that we are seeing more and more. Just wanted to give an example that I actually went through during one of the training that I attended. Is an example of a company called, actually, that created a software called Tanagra, which is a predictive analytics software. So what they did is that they had a customer that was managing rental payment for companies that had big numbers of either houses or apartments that they were managing. And the issue that they were having is that at the end of the month, they had a lot of customers that were not paying. And of course, it was very difficult to manage because they had thousands of them. And it was very difficult to recover from the money that they were supposed to get paid from their customers. So what they did with Tanagra is that they wanted to kind of identify the customer that may have issue on paying their rent, and make sure that they are taking some preventive actions to kind of help them, or maybe have plans with them to see how they can pay, or find ways, actually, anyways, for themselves and for the customers. So they provided all the data that they had for Tanagra. It was just a pilot that they did. They had a set of 10,000 10,000 people. And from that 10,000 people, they found around 400 people that may have issues on paying the rent. So once they identified them, what they did is that they called them just to kind of have the discussion, and they realized that every time they were calling, the customer was saying, oh, actually, I was about to reach out to you because I may have issues at the end of this month because of this and this and this. The kind of predictive analysis that they made, they used just the data that they were having from the customers. So the apartment that they were renting, how big it was, how many kids they have, what is their salary, etc., etc. These just informations that are very common. And from there, they've been able to really improve the relationship between their customers and the end users of the house. So this is just some examples, something that maybe we couldn't have thought about a few years ago, but now with all the data that we are collecting and with artificial intelligence and machine learning, we are really able to do many interesting things depending on the sector where you are acting as an SME. Very important point, yes, we are collecting all those data, but it's important as a company to make sure that you take very seriously the security aspect. So I know that many SMEs are using cloud providers, such as either Google, AWS, Microsoft, etc., to host their data, which is good because most of the time are guaranteeing security, and they are also compliant with the local rules that applies to the data management in the country where they are operating. But it's very important for you to make sure that not only you are securizing your data, because if you have a plan to exploit it, you need to make sure that you are not going to lose them. And it's also important for you to make sure that you understand exactly what you can do with those data, who you can share it with. Just make sure that you comply with the local rules and make sure that you are securing your relationship with the customers that you want to serve. That's really core on the data management strategy that you will have. So moving forward, this is just maybe the perspective that I have, again, based on the experience that I have in the market. You are all collecting data from various sources since you are doing business. I think the first thing that you need to do is to assess the current status, so know exactly what kind of data you have. So keep in mind that depending on if it's your data, if it's your partner data, etc., there are different ways of managing them. You need to understand internally if it's you have structured or unstructured data. And I know for sure that many of you probably have a lot of unstructured data, so it's important you will make sure that you organize that data, because whatever model, again, as I said earlier, whatever model you have, if the data that you have is not proper, there's not much that you can do, because the outcome that you will get actually won't be reliable. Verify the 5 V's that I mentioned earlier: veracity, volume, velocity. Sorry, not everything is coming on my mind, but I think anyways you will get the deck and you will see all the V's that I was referring to earlier. And finally, it's important for you to strategize or to think about what you want to do with the data that you've been collecting so far. If you need a data scientist to help you, you can do it externally. If you can do it internally, it's also good, but it's important for you because you may think that it's just bits that you are having somewhere in the cloud or in your own data center, but it's actually the new all. So be very proactive with that. And if the likes of Google, Amazon, Apple, etc., are making money from the data that they are collecting from us, there's no reason why you couldn't as a business, as long as, of course, you respect privacy, security, and all the requirements that you need to comply with to make sure that your customers are safe. So that's it. I think I was supposed to do it for 45 minutes, but I did less. Right, Sean?
Yeah, you were great. Thank you so much, Djiba. It was an amazing session. I hope everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to do it, drop them in the Q&A section. And at the end of this webinar, we'll take all questions. So if you have any questions, just leave it at the Q&A section. So next up, we'll be having Baba, country manager at Senegal. So he'll be sharing what Flutterwave offers business owners.
It's not easy to go after an expert, Djiba Diallo from EcoBank and all her experience, but I'll try. So we'll directly dive into what is business like after COVID hit. And of course, you will see that data is flowing all over still. So we basically want to talk to you about the e-commerce store you can open via Flutterwave. It's a Flutterwave store, we call it. Flutterwave store is quite simply the best, easiest way to launch and manage an e-commerce business that accepts payment from anywhere in the world without the need to have a website, a know-how, to be a technical engineer, etc. Flutterwave store allows you to list products, upload images, set prices, sizes, etc. Next slide, please. Yes, so Flutterwave Store was conceived as part of Flutterwave's resolve to help businesses keep the lights on during the global COVID-19 pandemic. As we've seen, COVID actually hit with all the restrictions, even the physical restrictions, a lot of business couldn't happen. And that's how the idea for Flutterwave Store came up. Flutterwave Store is very simple and easy to use because it's designed to bring businesses that are offline, online with minimal hassle. So as we said, no website required, easy setup without the need for a technical engineer or developer, lets you electronically keep track of all payments, incoming, outgoing, creates a seamless shopping experience for your customers. It also allows for product listing, multiple variants, sizes, color, weight, etc., inventory management, set quantities for your products, inbuilt fraud management solution, which is a key element there, multiple payment options, including cards, bank transfer, USSD, local and international card acceptance. So basically, this is in line with Flutterwave's mission to allow any business, no matter how small, to be able to reach the world and accept payments from any customer across all continents. And again, multi-channel web and mobile app. Flutterwave Store is for everyone who has a legitimate business with products and services to sell. The Flutterwave Store has no boundaries, no borders, no limits. You can create and sell to anyone, anytime, anywhere. With Flutterwave Store, you have the same power to process payments as any company on the Flutterwave network. The transaction flow for the example of JK Fashion, for example, on Flutterwave Store. So the customer makes a selection from JK Fashion's Flutterwave Store, proceeds to checkout, inputs personal data and delivery information. Customer confirms all information, then selects Pay Now option, selects the preferred form of payments, card, barter, USSD, bank, mobile money, etc. Completes payments, and JK Fashion receives payment. JK Fashion is now notified via email of the order details, quantity, size, etc. Processes the order by picking and packing the item. Dispatches, depending on your location, it might be available or not, to the customer via preferred delivery partner. And then JK Fashion is settled in T+1 and can view payment analytics on their dashboard. So sometimes it's T+1 because businesses close at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. So it's really hard to be settling them at that time at the end of the day. It's basically the end of the business day at 5 or 6 maximum. So that's why we settle them T+1 the next day. So we can actually say it's T+1, but it's actually same day settlement. Thanks. That was the last point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Papa. Right now we're going to Q&A. So if you have any questions, just feel free to share that in the Q&A section so we can go through it. So, I mean, the first question I see here is, do you mind sharing the presentation? So this webinar is being recorded. So you get the recording later on this week, or you can always check our YouTube channel for the recorded webinar on our YouTube channel, which is Flutterwave. But we'll be sending everyone who registered an email by the course of the week. Anyone have any other questions regarding why data is important for businesses, or what Flutterwave offers business owners? Okay, I'm just gonna wait.
Okay, someone has sent me this saying that in Djiba's experience, would you say that this is something that is accessible to, just a small business, or do they have to already, be making a particular amount to be able to afford, to be able to, make the most of data?
So the question is, as SME, should they start having a look at data management? Am I correct?
Yes, like from the jump, or should they wait till they started to achieve a particular revenue level?
Yes, I think it's a good question. I mentioned earlier the 5 V's that are characteristic to data, and one of them is the volume. Again, are dependent to the data that you are providing. And if you don't have a lot, the more data you have, the more predictive the solution will be, right? So I think it depends on the data that you have, how structured it is, how truthworthy you think your data is. I think that's also important. But as I said earlier, data scientists are very expensive and very rare. That's the reality of it, because it's new, because it's the big tendency. What happened is that the big groups, big IT companies, most of them are taking all the data scientists that are around the world. But as I said, there are companies that are specialized on helping other SMEs and other companies thinking through their data strategy. And maybe they will be in the best position to tell you if you are ready or not. But it's expensive, so be mindful of that. And I know that as SMEs, it's always very difficult, to have budget for specific activities. So you need to be, maybe if you have clearly identified a revenue stream, yes, maybe it's worth, having a look at it. If it's not the case, I will suggest that you ask to a company that is specialized on that, maybe have a brief description with them, and they will be in the best position to tell you, what you need to do. I hope that helps.
I'm sure it does. Thank you, Djiba. I guess some of us are just a bit, it's okay. Don't be shy about it. Like Djiba said, it's expensive, so it's okay if you feel that's something you want to work towards, to be able to create a budget for it. But just like Djiba outlined, there are lots of benefits there. Thanks, Djiba. That was helpful. I don't see any questions on my side.
Jola, maybe, hi. I would just like to chip in on the data for SMEs and small companies.
Sure.
Actually, fintechs like Flutterwave actually help SMEs to get the first type of data they would need for their businesses, which is history, business history, transactions, etc. And this allows for banks like EcoBank, Djiba's bank, to actually be able to assess that this actual SME or company needs this much amount of credit, etc. For example, it gives visibility to banks to allow them to lend money to small companies, really small, tiny businesses. And this is a big gap we have in the market, and it's a gap fintechs are solving for. So basically, these SMEs need credit to be able to grow their businesses, but they're in a position where the banks don't have much visibility on what they do. And Flutterwave and fintechs actually bring this kind of data to actually make the business legible for a bank to assess what kind of credit this SME would need. So this is actually the first initial steps of that kind of data, which will be really helpful for SMEs, for example.
Thank you. Very well said, Baba. And it's good to know they can start with something right now, going through their dashboard, doing exports of their transaction history. Of course, like Baba mentioned, there is information that can be gold there, especially if it lets you access credits. I mean, who doesn't want to scale their business, right? All right, cool. Someone asked, if the Flutterwave store is available globally. I think I can take that. So in most, for most parts, yes, but we do have a focus, an Africa focus. And so because of that, you find that the Flutterwave store is available in most of the African markets that we operate in. This is not to say though, that you cannot receive payments, from around the world. Your customer doesn't have to be in a specified region for you to be able to accept money from there. In summary, you can accept payments globally, and then you can set up your store when you are in most of our key African markets, as well as the UK and US, I should mention. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Elvis. All right. Cool. I don't believe there's anyone else that we missed. Okay, Sheon already answered the question about sharing the presentation. So that's for me. Over to you, Sheon. I think this is one of those days where we're like really good on time. Like we
Honestly, you can say that as well. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. I just want to say thank you for everyone that joined. If you joined a bit late, no need to fret, because we'll be sharing the recording later on this week. Or if you don't receive that, you can always check our YouTube channel for the recording. It was great to have you guys here. See you in the next 2 weeks. Bye.